Good morning, UU congregation of Santa Rosa. It is a joy and an honor to be here at this pulpit for my first time preaching at Santa Rosa. Thank you so much for having me. We've been planning this service for months. Thank you to Reverend Amy and Reverend Tovis, to Jonathan, to Sally, to the music people, to the tech team. I felt the warm welcome since the moment we started interacting, and it's been a joy to be working together. This morning, the words of the late Black civil rights icon, Congressman John Lewis, whisper in my ear. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. Our struggle is the struggle of a lifetime. Never be afraid to get in good trouble, says John Lewis. Necessary trouble. John Lewis's call to get in good trouble reminds me of the best that we can be as Unitarian Universalists as we struggle to bend the arc towards justice, dismantle white supremacy in all its terrible forms, and forge transformative solidarity with all oppressed people yearning to be free. Being a Unitarian Universalist means being part of something bigger than oneself. Something with a long-term vision for a world that does not yet exist. We are a living tradition, and that calls us to do the hard internal and external work to challenge oppression and white supremacy within, among, and beyond our church walls. We have the antidote to white supremacy right here in our Unitarian Universalist value of pluralism, which states we celebrate that all are sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology, and we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. I'm curious to know how many folks here have heard about the new UUA program called Mosaic Congregations. Few folks in the room have heard about it. So Mosaic Congregations is a certification program similar to the LGBTQ Welcoming Congregation or the Green Sanctuary program. And this Mosaic Congregations just came out this year and is a lifespan educational commitment to engaging in diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-oppression right when our communities need it most. The Mosaic Anti-Racism Lifespan Curriculum is in direct response to the 2017 UUA's Commission on Institutional Change, looking at every aspect of the UUA. How is our music anti-racist? How is our worship anti-racist? How is our board anti-racist? How is our social justice anti-racist? And so they've created this OWL lifespan curriculum. OWL is our whole lives, and it's a comprehensive sexuality curriculum. We now have a comprehensive anti-racism curriculum for elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids, people of color, white folks, older adults. There's something in Mosaic for all of us, and I hope that you all can get into it. I'll add something to your church newsletter that has links about the Mosaic Lifespan Curriculum so you all can get engaged. In particular, as preparing for this sermon, I've been thinking a lot about queer Black scholar Adrienne Maree Brown. Adrienne Maree Brown wrote a book called Emergent Strategy, and it's one of the most amazing organizing books. In her book, Emergent Strategy, Adrienne says, what we practice at the small scale sets the patterns for the whole system. What we practice at the small scale sets the patterns for the whole system. So if we can't unpack white supremacy culture right here in our own UU churches, in our own worship and governance, how can we hope to bring down a fascist white supremacy government in the highest levels of this country right now? Emergent strategist activist Adrienne Maree Brown said, there is a conversation in the room that only these people can have at this time. Find it. What is that conversation in the room that only people of color UUs can have and white allies UUs can have? According to the UUA Guide to Race-Based Affinity Groups, the purpose of gathering in racial affinity groups is to create safe and brave space where people can express their fears, express their pain and their hopes without bystanders, so that when we re-enter mixed identity spaces, it's with greater self-awareness, less self-judgment, and stronger confidence. The intent of forming race-based affinity groups is to deepen and broaden the perspectives of participants to produce new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, new ways of being, because a different type of group can create a different kind of conversational outcome. For all of these reasons and more, we hope you will join us today after this service for the BIPOC Caucus, Black, Indigenous, People of Color Caucus. We'll be meeting in the boardroom, and White Allies will be meeting in classroom 3. So if you identify as a Black, Indigenous person of color, please join us in the boardroom. And if you identify as an anti-racist white ally, please join folks in classroom 3. Drum's roots, as I said earlier, run deep. Drum is diverse, revolutionary UU multicultural ministries, and it was started in 1997 in California, right here in Los Gatos, south of San Jose, where the leaders of the African American UU multicultural ministries and Latino-Latina Networking Association, AUM and Luna, came together in 1997 as Black UU ministers and Latinx UU ministers that needed a way to be together, that needed a way to build community, and they met, forging deeper relationships, eventually from ministers it opened up to religious professionals, and now Drum has over 1,000 members across the US and is the official and largest people of color Unitarian Universalist organization. I became active with Drum youth and young adults of color in the early 2000s when I was in college. At the time, First Unitarian Church of San Diego had over 800 members, was in the heart of LGBT Hillcrest in San Diego, and had a monthly people of color group that kept me coming. Right from those ethnic studies, college classes, I realized after I graduated from college, it was in UU anti-racist spaces where I could still be a person of color meeting other people of color. Once I graduated from college in ethnic studies, it was hard to find these spaces where white folks are willing to be anti-racist and say so, and people of color are willing to come together across Black, Asian, Latinx, Indigenous. There's a lot of work that it takes to even identify as a person of color. And so what does it mean as Unitarian Universalists to be deeply engaged in this struggle? As I said earlier, we're coming onto the UUA General Assembly. Every year, there's a virtual General Assembly, which is this year. Next year, General Assembly is going to be back in California. It has not been in California since Long Beach in 2024. So it's been a good chunk of time. June 2027, San Jose, California. There's going to be thousands of Unitarian Universalists from all over the country and the world in San Jose, California. So to prep for that, this year we're having a BIPOC statewide caucus held at the Mount Diablo UU Church in Walnut Creek. Simultaneously, our people of color from Southern California are going to be meeting at First UU Los Angeles. And so we're going to have the first ever California statewide BIPOC UU caucus. That's this Saturday, 3 to 5, June 20th. Now, will you take a moment to dream with me, UU congregation of Santa Rosa? What does collective liberation look like right here at the UU congregation of Santa Rosa? Imagining together what flourishing could be with our 1,000 congregations across the UUA as the go-to anti-racist, anti-fascist, multicultural, multi-religious justice communities that actually look like and reflect the diversity of California. What could collective liberation look like? What could it feel like? What would it taste like, sound like? What would it protest like? What would it dance like? What would it organize like? What could our love look like if we allowed our Unitarian Universalist values to transform us? from the inside out to transform our relationships. Aboriginal activist Lila Watson says, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because you know that your liberation is bound up with my liberation, then, my friends, let us work together. Collective liberation is the core of who we are as Unitarian Universalists, and we are no stranger to the struggle in the face of authoritarianism. We've been resisting from 16th century Poland in the struggle for religious freedom. We've been resisting from the women's suffrage in Seneca Falls to the civil rights movement, locking arms in Selma, Alabama, as we mourned with the nation the death of white Unitarian minister Reverend James Reeb from All Souls, D.C., and white UU leader Viola Luiso from Detroit, and black civil rights activist Jimmy Lee Jackson from Alabama, whose deaths galvanized the nation into passing the Voting Rights Act in 1965. We've been there time and time again. From marriage equality to organizing for a free Palestine to abolishing ICE and its racist concentration camps, we Unitarian Universalists have always been courageous and brave and lit that chalice when it felt impossible, when it felt hard, when we could have been burned at the stake for doing so. In closing, I want to leave you with words from our president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who says, times like these are where faith communities find their purpose. Times like these are where faith communities find their purpose. We are the inheritors of a liberal and liberating faith rooted in the highest values of love and justice and pluralism. May we each find our purpose in the revolution that is already here. May we be a living tradition ready to serve all the people, every last one, ready to build the world, the new world, out of the ashes of the old. Collective liberation for all, nothing more, nothing less. Amen. Ashe. Kapalaran ke asi seya. Blessed be.